I'm so sorry for the setup here, but I forgot to film an intro twice. So, hi. Um, I'm Ro. I'm going to be reviewing a book today. Best Text Ever by Nadia El-fassi. I'm so sorry if I'm saying that wrong. I probably am. Don't trust the fucking word out of my mouth. This is a romance. I will be doing a rant review, but also a plot breakdown, though I will have a little section without spoilers. I will be pretty negative today. This review is also not for the author or for fans of the author, or just if you don't want to hear me talk bad about this book, then please click off. This isn't a space for you. You're not gonna have a good time, and I kind of don't want to know about it. If it doesn't sound like a good time to you, go away. Sorry, no offense, just, respectfully don't be here. Also, the camera quality is gonna get a lot worse because the lens on my phone is very broken, and I thought I had it fixed the way I put it, but yeah, it was definitely not fixed. I figured people were gonna have this on in the background if anyone's watching it at all, so yeah, probably not a big deal. Lastly is content warnings. Content warnings for sexual acts. I will be talking about them. Mentions of cheating, but it's only mentions. Having sex in a way that involves others without asking them. That's what I wrote down. The last two warnings I wrote down are not really official, but like oversharing, horniness, and general cringe. With all of that said, let's go into it. Let's fucking go. When I first saw this book, I did not read the quote on the front, a fabulous, very sexy novel. I did not read it. I just read the back. I was really looking for just anything to read that would not piss me off, not make me sad, and wasn't too difficult to understand. And this seemed cute. I figured I'd look for romance because I want to see human connection, and there's no genre that I know of that is specifically for friendship. So I went to romance. I did not know that this was specifically supposed to be very spicy. Okay, there were a lot of things that I didn't specifically love. I'll get into it, but just a general overview. If you don't really care that the details don't fully line up, if you just want to read a book that's very horny, have at it. It's about a witch and a museum curator. Their besties are getting married, and they're at the wedding being set up by those besties. They meet even before that, and they can't be together because the witch has a curse upon herself. But yeah, if that sounds like something you'd like, and you don't really care that some things don't really make sense, and if you don't care about insta love either, then I think you'd like this. And if you want it to be sexy, or spicy, I don't think it's very sexy. I didn't really like this though. I thought it was kind of. I think this book is trying to be sexy, but it's really just horny. I figured when I saw the quote that it was fabulously sexy, I was like, okay, make me feel something, I dare you. But I didn't mean for it to be like a vague sense of uncomfortableness the whole time. I'll get into the spoilers right now. Our book opens with Dina, our main character, love interest. She's the witch. She owns a little coffee shop type of thing, a little cafe. She's baking croissants. It doesn't come up, but it's not going well for her. Then a guy walks into the morning rush. The first thing that we hear about him is luckily that he has a face and she likes it. The second thing is that he's very large. There's a whole thing about how it's getting colder. This is like a few days before Halloween, so it's like late October. The guy walking in, Scott, her love interest, he is wearing a fluffy sweater that's very fluffy, but not fluffy enough to hide the muscles underneath. This tells me one thing, or two things, I guess. This sweater is either very thin or it's very tight. To me, this tells me that if the sweater is not very, very thin, then this is a fit issue. It's not really supposed to do that. I don't know. That's a weird sweater. To me, that's not, oh, sexy man, big muscle, but to me, that's like, oh, fit issue. I was picturing the Liver King wearing a crop top, to be honest, but I guess a fluffy crop top. It kind of makes me cringe a little. Throughout the story, we get a lot of focus on how bigly huge this guy is, and well, I didn't like it. Dina likes it though. The narration goes on and on about how he's cute, and Dina thinks he's cute, but she's not thinking about him that way because she can't, because she's hexed. Anytime she falls in love with anyone, they get hurt. The narration is going on about how she's not thinking about romance the whole time. And on the one hand, yes, I get it. You're putting us in the mindset that Dina, she's not thinking about romance. But on the other hand, we are in a romance book, and like after a few lines saying that same thing, I get it now. Can we move on? I guess we can move on. Oh well. I need water. That's what Dina's gonna do to his dick later. Ew. Why did I say that? When Scott walks into the little cafe, an evil eye pendant above the door drops and breaks in two, and Dina is like, oh, bad omen, bad omen. And the guy is like, oh, an evil eye? And he basically starts info dumping about his special interest. That's not a dig. Also, I don't think he is autistic. It's not ever mentioned. That's what I would do if my special interest was brought up, so that's why I mentioned it. Disregard that. He starts talking about the evil eye, and he is interested in good luck charms. He info dumps about it for maybe 2 sentences, and then the coffee machine breaks. Dina has to go fix it, and he leaves. He goes to his work. He works as a museum curator, like I said, and yeah, pretty cool. He's doing an exposition on protective charms. This is his first exposition, and this is a really big thing for him, which is cool. Awesome. We learn a little bit about how he always hoped that lucky things would have actual magic, and that he was adopted by 2 moms. He leaves work to go to his friend Eric. They row in a boat. Very fun. I think. I don't know. Who knows? Eric is getting married this weekend to Emmy. Emmy is Dina's best friend, but Scott doesn't know that, and somehow Scott and Dina have never met, even though, you know, they're the besties of the bride and groom. They just never met. Don't worry about it. It totally makes sense, actually, because no, it doesn't make sense. Apparently, Scott has been traveling. He broke up with his ex because his ex cheated on him. Everything reminds him of her, so he's been running away. And I guess that's supposed to explain how Dina and Scott never met. Sure, fine, whatever, don't worry about it. We got to Dina again. She is with her besties. They're talking about the wedding. Dina is baking 2 things to see which one Emmy likes best, and we get a little bit of a look at Dina's magic. I genuinely like this part. Her magic works by she works feelings into her baked goods so that when you taste them, it reminds you of a feeling of a thing, and that can be really nice. I really like the idea of her weaving magic into her food, or I guess baking it in. It's really cute. I really like the idea of a witch who owns a coffee shop who does that. Like, cause like, yes, that would give you a lot of customers, probably a lot of returning ones. You bring a little bit of comfort to a bunch of people, which is really sweet. It's just wholesome and nice. I really like it. I really like the way the book walks us through the process of that. Like having Emmy explain her love for Eric, and then Dina putting that into the pastry so that when Emmy tastes it, it feels so comforting. I really like those parts. I feel like a lot of the magic building and world building in this book is pretty nice. Okay, anyway, Emmy decides on cinnamon buns. Dina starts packing for the wedding. She's gonna stay with her parents, and apparently that's the same place that Scott's parents live and where he'll be staying. So they meet each other on the train there. Dina has a cat, which I forgot for most of the story because he doesn't really come up unless it's like convenient or cute. The cat is in the little carrier. She? The cat sleeps in the carrier, but gets out all of a sudden. The cat's a familiar, so he has a little bit of magic, I guess. He runs into Scott's arms. That's how Dina finds Scott. They sit together. Now, the thing that I haven't mentioned is that they're already obsessed with each other. Scott has already gone on an inner monologue about thinking about her, how she walked right out of his daydream, which is a thing Dina said as well. They've been thinking about each other. They've just been living their life and then going like, but he's on the back of my mind. She's on the back of my mind. Like it's just been there. It's just been there. Throughout the story, there's them going, this person I interacted with for 30 seconds. It's been there. I don't love it. Personally, I cannot relate to seeing someone and having them stick into my mind that way. I mean, I'd imagine Dina would be like, oh, that guy that broke my evil eye pen, and that's kind of like that would stick in her mind, sure, but I'm kind of just like, it doesn't feel like it's for those reasons. It feels like they're just, from what I remember, they just think they're pretty. So they're in the train, they're talking. This is where some of the weirdo fuck ass shit happens. I swear that sounds mean. Some weird shit happens. Things that personally weird me out. So they're in the train, they're talking. Their conversation is pretty basic and short. And Dina whips out some hot chocolate that she brought with her, like imbued with like calming magic. But again, that's awesome. That's so cool. Like that's fucking great. Anyway, I love that. I love that she can just do that. She reaches into her backpack because it's a magic backpack, of course, and reaches for a mug that she can just get from the backpack. She whips it onto the table and it says world's best cat mom, and she's like embarrassed by it, and he says something like, how self-congratulatory, and then she says something like, oh my god, he can't be handsome and funny. And it's like, if you were in the story right now and you thought that he was handsome and that comment was very funny, then you would hear that and be like, oh my god, you're so right, Dina, he can't be that, right? But for me, I'm not with you right now. So I agree. He's not very funny, and I guess beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but I'm not here with you right now. We are not on the same page. So I think that's kind of where it went a little bit. But it gets worse. They drink the hot chocolate and she has a marshmallow on her lip. So he takes his thumb. He's like, may I? And he takes his thumb and he wipes the marshmallow off of her lip. And then he takes his thumb and puts it in his own mouth. So like that. Sir, what the fuck? The way I would never see this man again. The way I would kick him. What the Yes, she said you may, but I still, like, I think that's really weird. I just imagine being in a train sharing hot chocolate with a stranger, and you are unaware that there's melted marshmallow on your lips, and he's just like, may I? And you're like, what are you supposed to say? Like, I guess, like, may you what? Scott, may you what? If you awkwardly say, yeah, I guess, like, yeah, or something like that, like, would he just, like, reach out his thumb and go, I feel disgusting doing that. I feel like I have to censor that. I think this is really weird. Dina thought it was sexy, I guess. This train stops and they step out and they're talking or whatever, but they're interrupted by Scott's moms. I'm not sure if it's both of them or just one of them, but I'm gonna say both because I found it hard to tell them apart. Sorry. Dina takes this moment to run. She literally runs. I think literally was in italics. From my perspective as an outsider, if I didn't have their inner monologues, I'd say that he was being a creep. So she took the first moment she could to like run off. And I don't blame her, but I have their inner monologues. So I know that she didn't run because of that. She's running because she's scared that she's into him. And if she's into him, then the hex will act up. And she doesn't want that because he's cute to her. Scott goes home with his moms. He goes home and he realizes that he has spent a lot of time away, that his moms are getting older. His dog is getting older. And I thought that was kind of cool to put in there. Time goes by wherever you are, and you gotta be wise what you want to spend it on. Apparently, I want to spend it reading a book I didn't like and then yapping about it and having to edit it as well. This book has a real problem of laying things on a little bit too thick and repeating things. And it's not like constant for everything, but it is very happening. So, for example, we are constantly reminded that Scott is very beefy and very large, which I guess is a feature of him. So if you're going to describe him when he walks into a room, you could keep saying that. I think it's a little bit grating, but also because if you tell me that a man is bigly large, it weirds me out. I'm kind of like, yeah. It's especially weird because he's described as like taking up almost the whole narrow entrance of a door. Meanwhile, I'm not that big, but I am fat and I also take up nearly the entire entrance. Like just my stature, if I stand in the doorway, it looks like I take up quite a lot of space. Like I'm squishy, so I can just, if I need to, I can just like squish. He is like a big rectangle, not quite a rectangle because he has a waist and he's broad shoulders. So like a big square triangle, like, oh, those nail shapes that are coffins? Are they called coffins? They're like squared almonds, maybe? So he's like that shape, but broad and muscle and very hard. And we'll get to the hardness. Also, he takes up almost the whole entrance of a narrow entrance, and I take up almost the whole entrance of a normal entrance. So he's like around my size or smaller, but I'm not even that wide. I'm just fat. So he's not actually that big then, but he is very large. It's constantly pressed upon us how large he is. It's confusing. Anyway, the second example of rubbing it in, I'll take the example of the dog aging. It's brought up that the dog is aging, and he remarks upon it because the fur around the nose of the dog is turning gray and white. And that description says a lot. It says a lot because your dog is old and your dog has a shorter life than a human. That dog won't have many years left, and that's sad. And then a page later, we are getting the same description of the dog again, but then also an added description that the dog walks for less long times. That was a great sentence. Why do we need to bring up the old description again when you're also adding a new one? If you're laying it on thick with like multiple different descriptions, I don't mind, because you're just describing a thing that is in the book. That's the job of an author to do that, so I don't mind that, but why repeat yourself? And also, if you're repeating yourself, why with so little space between it? We get it. Why say the same thing twice within 2 pages and then never bring it up again? I don't get it. When Scott gets back to his house, Eric is there and he invites him to go to a bar later, and Scott isn't sure. He doesn't really want to go. He's tired and whatever. He's thinking about Dina. Cut back to Dina. I really, really like Dina's description of her house, and I really, really like her mom. Her dad there's not really much to it, but I really like her mom. I really like the relationship with her mom as well. And I really like the house. The house is apparently sentient, and it makes illusions and things for the people in the house. It does things for the people in the house, and it has emotions, and I think that's cool. So when she walks in the street, her luggage feels a little bit lighter because the house is already picking it up, which is really sweet. The house is stirring in food to cook it for the family, which is really sweet. And the house is like unpacking her baggage and putting it up in her childhood bedroom, handing her something she needs. Like it's sweet. I think it's very sweet. I love the idea that the house is part of the family. That's really cute. Her mom is also a witch, and she's a bit nosy and she's a bit chaotic, and I fear that her characterization as chaotic is being used to, how do I put this? To further the plot, to kind of use the mom as a plot device. Dina decides to go out with her friends, the friends that where Scott was supposed to be. Okay, I need to talk about her friends. She has 2 friends, Emmy and Rosemary. Emmy and Rosemary are the same person, in my opinion. Basically, anyway. Emmy is getting married to Eric. Sure, whatever. Emmy and Rosemary are both writers. They both write horror novels, but they're like different kinds of horror. I'm not sure which one writes which because it wasn't really distinguishable. Emmy has no supernatural powers, but Rosemary sees ghosts. Rosemary is kind of like the soft, feminine, lesbian version of Emmy, but she's also straight, but like she is kind of like softly feminine lesbian coded in my opinion. I don't know how to describe it. Also, she has a lot of tattoos. One thing I noticed about this author is that she really likes tattoos. Honestly, kind of fair. In the bar, she meets Emmy and Rosemary and Eric and maybe some other friends that I forgot about. And Emmy is like hinting at her that she's got something planned. Spoiler, I'm just gonna say it. Emmy and Eric are planning to matchmake between Dina and Scott, that's his name. Emmy knows about the hex. She just doesn't really care. I think it's kind of annoying personally if I told my friend, no, don't do this thing, and my friend said, actually, I'm gonna do this thing, and I said, no, that would really be messed up. People would get hurt, and I'm really scared if you do that, and I really don't like it. And my friend then went, but I'm gonna do it anyway. Then I would be upset. Personally, I would not be happy with my friend. Probably have a sit down with them and talk about boundaries. But I guess Dina is different. What you're going to notice about Dina is that she's not going to sit down with people and have a talk about boundaries or about what she wants or about what someone else wants or about what she needs. She's not going to have a talk with anyone. She's just going to float through life and everything is just going to fall into place for her. It doesn't matter. Don't worry about it. Dina drinks a bunch of alcohol and then goes back home. But she doesn't take the normal route. She takes a different route. Apparently, there's a house that goes all out for Halloween. And it's special because it's England, not America. And she just goes there and she stands in front of the house admiring it. And she turns around and face plants into the sidewalk. Oopsie, owie. Of course, Scott is there to save her. He didn't want to come to the little get together, so he just walked his dog instead. Juniper is the name of the dog if you wanted to know. He comes up to Dina and picks her up, and she's drunk and in pain. She tells him that he smells like pine or something, and that he's very broad. We knew that. He carries her home. She manages to like say the address before she falls asleep in his arms. The mom is already onto this. The mom sees him and is like, yeah, that's the boy. That's not how she would sound, I think. Anyway, the mom brings them inside. This is where it gets heavy-handed again. I think this is supposed to plant a seed into Scott that there's something magic going on, but he never acknowledges it. He never thinks about it. In the house, a lot of things appear, like all of a sudden there's an ice pack that he didn't know how it got there, and there's a dog bed even though they don't have a dog in the house. Dina's mom is named Noor. Noor gives Dina a little potion, and she's a little more conscious and sober again. She gives them tea and goes to bed. Then Scott and Dina can have a little moment, and by that I mean that they just kind of talk, and in their head they're like, oh, this person is so hot. They realize that they were both supposed to meet tonight at the bar, and that they're going to be in the wedding together in the wedding weekend. I don't remember the whole conversation, but there wasn't much. They decide that they should just be friends. I should look this up. Dina's like, oh, you were meant to come tonight, weren't you? But you were running errands. And Scott says, I didn't feel like going out tonight. And then Dina says, after I ran away from the train station. That might have had something to do with it. Let me explain. You don't owe me any kind of explanation, Dina. Really, you don't. I don't expect anything of you. Scott puts his empty cup down on the tray. I think I'd better go. Scott, please. He scooped up Jennifer, who snuffled in her sleep like the big furry baby she was, and headed towards the door. Please thank your mom for the tea and the biscuits. They were lovely. I'm sorry if I made you uncomfortable. That wasn't my intention. They were going to have to spend all weekend together at the very least, so he thought it best to leave things amicable. And then he basically runs off. Dina goes, Scott, just wait a second, please. She jumps in front of him and explains that she ran away because she's not looking for anything, apparently. And they're like to each other, like, we should just be friends. And then she's like, yeah, just friends. And then she leans in to the corner of his mouth, I think, or his cheek, one of the two. And she gives him a little kiss, a little right there. Hey, here's the thing. Friends can kiss. Friends can make out platonically, in my opinion. You could do that to each other, but also, let's be so real, you're strangers. I just wanted to establish that this is like the second day that they've known each other. The first day was a few seconds talking to each other. This day was like talking to each other a little on the train, mostly off page from what I remember. And then like a tiny bit at her home. Also a little bit when she was like really drunk and losing consciousness. So, you know, I just wanted to have that established. But they decide to be friends, and then Dina gives him a kiss. Something, 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 something. Next day, wedding. They go to the wedding. Yippee! They show up at the wedding place. Dina thinks about that little smoochy smooch that she gave him. But they're just friends, though. And they like look at the premises, and it's pretty and cool and whatever. Rosemary sees a bunch of ghosts. Did you forget about Rosemary? Because I did. I really like the way Dina talks about the magic from like the forest. The wedding is taking place at like a little forest place, a little big mansion in front of a forest and a bunch of fields, and apparently there's a maze somewhere beyond the trees, and there's little cottages. It's cute, it's cozy, I like the setting. I like the way that Dina talks about the magic, or that the book talks about Dina experiencing the magic as like a force from the forest that she can feel vibrating through her, or like pulsing through her like electricity or a heartbeat. I really like that. Imi escorts Dina to the place she'll be staying at, and she hints at a surprise. Apparently the surprise is Scott. They'll be spending time together in a cottage together, in the woods together with this stranger, because let's be real, they're still strangers. Imi is still trying to hook them up. Eric is as well. This is where it starts to get sexual. The book, and I guess this video as well. And this is also where the book started to lose me very much. I'm asexual. I don't look at a person and think, damn, what if we had sex though, that I'd like that. No, I don't. I can think someone's pretty, but that doesn't really make me want to touch them like that. I don't relate to that. I don't look at someone and think, ah yes, dick hard. I don't experience that. So this is deeply unrelatable to me. And it kind of freaks me out, the thought that someone could like look at me and think that. Weirds me out. And don't you think like, oh, but you're ugly. Because no, not gonna overshare. Not gonna overshare. No. I'm not doing it. This whole video is oversharing. Dina rubs one out in the shower and then gets on a little dress, and then they go to dinner. Yeah, that's it. Oh, I think they have like a fireplace that they put fire in, and there's like one of those little stones that you rub together to make a little spark. And Scott helps Dina do it by taking his bigly huge hands and enveloping her tiny little hands with his bigly huge hands so that he can move her hands to make the stone spark, because he has very big hands, don't you see? Large even. Anyway, they go to dinner and they're looking at each other. Scott and Dina both separately remark on how their parents are like romantic, I think, or maybe that was earlier. Basically their parents have like cute love stories and are very in love with each other, and they both yearn for a love such as that. But Dina may never have it because she's hexed, and Scott, he's just his ex, though. His ex is like brought up a little bit in the beginning and in the end, but I keep forgetting that she's there because she never really comes up in like a way that sticks. So, but you know, he's angsty about it because he has an ex. Honestly, kind of valid. I don't want to downplay it. Like getting cheated on by someone that you genuinely loved, that really sucks. But also later, towards the end of the book, he remarks on how all of these joyful moments with Dina he never experienced with his ex. So on the one hand, she is this perfect ex that broke your heart. On the other hand, you didn't even like her that much. It still sucks to get cheated on if you didn't even like her that much. That's a really big breach of contract. That's a really big breach of trust. That's really serious. But on the other hand, she was so amazing, but not that amazing. It's weird. I don't get it. After the dinner, they go back to the cottage. In their inner monologue, they're still a little bit horny for each other. When we're in Dina's inner thing and she's horny, I'm kind of like, don't love it, but it's fine. But I find Scott, when he's horny, I find him really annoying and grating and kind of creepy, and he weirds me out. Sorry. He's constantly really hard, like all the time, and anything that Dina does makes him hard. And he's like, he has a very large penis that is constantly erect, and it's because of Dina. And he just, how he wouldn't like to put his peen in her very much. He would like that. Wouldn't it be fun if it was in her mouth? Personally, I'm kind of like, could you put that away, please? But I guess he feels different about it. Next morning, Dina is baking breakfast, or cooking it, or making it, I guess. She's serving it to Scott, I think as an apology for running off or something. I don't fully remember. It doesn't really matter. He's very into it. She bends down to get something from the oven, and he remarks on her ass. She has a butt, and he really, really likes that. So he talks about it, and of course how his penis is hard, which we have to know. It's very crucial that we know, I assume, because we keep being told about it. This is also where a little bit of a dynamic is happening, and also before this, but I didn't mention it. They're just friends. They said that they're just friends, and Dina keeps being like, we're just friends, and then like kissing him, and then saying, we're just friends, and then she masturbates in the shower thinking about curling her fingers in his chest hair. But they're just friends, and yes, you could be friends with benefits, but in this book I don't think that's a thing that exists. They're just friends, but they really want to kiss, and they're just friends, but their faces are like half an inch away from each other. It's mentioned half an inch. Wait, hold on. For reference, that's half an inch. That's like inches on my face. So, but maybe I'm like Scott, and I'm really big, and so yeah, maybe it's just a different ratio. I don't know. During this breakfast scene, something happens again that really weirds me out. They're just friends, remember that. But Dina takes a little bit of icing from the edge of a bowl, and she's like, "Do you want to taste some icing, Scott?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure." And she takes a little bit of icing from the bowl, and she reaches it out to his little mouth, and he licks it clean, and the pressure of his tongue is mentioned. So just, just a casual activity between friends. Eat that up, motherfucker. Just friendly friends. It keeps bothering me because Dina keeps being like, we're just friends, and then doing shit like that, and Scott is just going with it. He's not like, that's a little weird. He doesn't think about it. He's not like, oh, we're just friends, then why does she keep doing this? He's like, we're just friends, but I'm extremely horny about it, so I'm not questioning it. I wish that these characters would just sit down and talk about it, or like sit down and think about it. I understand why Gina doesn't want to do anything romantic and is suppressing that, or I guess why she doesn't want to do anything sexual, even though she would do something sexual, but it's not supposed to mean anything. But she also says that with this man, it is going to be something serious. So I understand why she doesn't want to do anything. But then she also keeps doing something. If you don't want to be sexual with this man, but you take your icing finger and put it in his mouth, and then remark on the pressure of his tongue, like, even I think that's probably a little bit sexual between two people who are horny for each other. I was really frustrated with that, because it feels like she keeps flip-flopping, and I wish she would just do a thing and stick with it. I know that that's hard to do, but it just bothered me. I think this is the day that they do pre-wedding activities. First is a scavenger's hunt. Yeah, the bullshit's gonna kick in. So Dina finds 2 items, and then she goes for the third one, is a book with a love letter scribbled inside. She goes to the library, and Scott goes to the library as well to search for the book. They find out that the library is sorted by genre, so they both run to the romance aisle and reach for the book, and when they pull it out, the bookcase opens up to reveal a passageway. At first, when I read this, I was kind of pissed off, because, like, why would that happen? That's weird. But I guess there's magic in this book, so I should shut up. And they go into the passageway. It's very narrow and very small. Dina just grabs Scott's hand without really commenting on, like, oh, but my resolve as a friend. They walk through the passageway, and Scott gets really nervous, and he tells Dina that he has claustrophobia. Now, I haven't looked into it, how claustrophobia works, but apparently it's not as bad with Dina, because he's comfortable with her. Again, this is the 3rd day that they've known each other, and I've informed you about all the conversations they've had so far, I think. So But I guess he's comfortable with her, which is nice, I guess. At the end of the passageway is something that Scott immediately recognizes as a lover's nook. Apparently, hundreds of years ago, people would have little tiny rooms and lovers would meet up in there to have like a little, they'd grind on each other essentially. They recognize what it is and I think they start kissing. This is where a trend happens. I don't want to be a dick to this author, but it feels like there are certain things that this author, I wouldn't say that these are things that she specifically thinks are hot, but it's constantly the same thing. So either she is like playing out one trope specifically, and this book is just for the people who like that trope, or she thinks this is really hot, so it should go in every spicy scene. You know what I mean? But the thing is, specifically, Dina is like not standing. So I guess she's like held up, pinned against the wall with her legs like around Scott. He keeps doing this. He keeps picking her up by her ass, carrying her like that, and then her having her legs wrapped around him. Because apparently she's... Look, okay. The idea is that he's very strong. He can just pick her up as if she's as light as a feather, but she's a grown woman and she has quite a lot of ass on her. So I'm kind of just like, that wouldn't be so easy for you, sir. Like, yeah, you could do that, but like that's quite an effort. But he's just effortlessly sweeps her up and like they lean into each other with their crotches, of course. Sorry, that sounds so unappealing, but yeah, it's... I think this is unappealing, so I'll use those words. They lean into each other with their crotches and like kiss and stuff. I think he touches her boobs and stuff. There's a lot of focus on her pointy ass nipples. Apparently her nipples erect like penises when she sees him. I don't get it. I also have nipples. They don't do that. They hear people coming into the library, not coming like that, not yet. They hear people coming into the library and stop kissing, and then they realize, oops, we should probably go back, because they don't want to find us in a little lover's nook. They lost the little scavenger's hunt, and they look disheveled. Whatever. Second activity, a maze. The maze beyond the forest. They walk into the forest. Dina trips on something and immediately Scott like helps her, catches her and whatever. As soon as they kiss, it just goes straight into gender roles, in my opinion. As soon as they kiss, it's just this. She is now tiny little clumsy woman and he is big, strong, protect man. I don't like it. I don't like it. When they get to the maze, Scott is nervous. He's very nervous because, like we just learned, he has claustrophobia, and this maze is apparently very tall and narrow. Now, if you have a best friend and he knows that you have claustrophobia, would it be rude if that friend purposefully sent you into a place that he knew would trigger your claustrophobia? Because Eric is Scott's best friend, and Eric planned the maze, and he knows that Scott has claustrophobia, and he's like, yeah, Scott, just go into the maze. What's the worst that could happen? So Scott goes into the maze, and you know what? Scott doesn't even go with Eric. Yeah, he goes with Immy. The people from the little maze party split up into two groups. The group with Immy, we're not in this group. We don't know. We're in Dina's point of view right now. Dina is not with Immy. Dina is with Eric, and Scott is with Immy. And a bunch of other people are there as well, but they don't really matter. They're background characters. They're basically cardboard cutouts. You know what foreshadowing is. Whoever gets to the center of the maze and then back first wins. Dina's group wins. I'm not gonna be too complicated about it. As soon as Dina's group comes out, it looks like, from the writing it's kind of confusing, but it looks like as soon as Dina's group comes out, Immy's group comes out right after them. They don't have Scott anymore. Scott's just gone, and now all of a sudden Eric is freaking out that his bestie with claustrophobia is stuck in this maze that makes him claustrophobic. I think Eric is a really bad friend. Dina goes into the maze, and as soon as she's out of sight, she does a little searching spell. I thought that was really cool. I thought it was a nice, good way to use her magic. She does that little spell, and she finds Scott. That's his name, yeah, Scott. He's freaking out, and I really liked the way that Dina saw him freaking out and said to herself that she really wanted to hug him, but she didn't, because if someone's freaking out and you just start touching them a bunch, that's probably a bad idea. I think it's really important to put that into books, especially when in media that's not always understood. See, I'm looking at you. So when he's freaking out and she takes her distance while still calming him down, I thought that was really nice to put that in like within from the top to the bottom of the page. He goes from like having tears streaming down his face to basically being like sexily flirting with her and having banter, and then that goes on for like an entire page, and then Dina is like, wow, you're already ready for banter? And it's like, yeah, he was a page ago, Dina. Pay attention. Keep up. Dina ties a scarf around his eyes, so he can't see her do the little spell again. He's not weirded out by this. Then she takes the scarf off right before the maze, and then he can make a run for it outside, I guess. When she takes the silk scarf off of his face, I think they have a little moment where they hold each other and maybe kiss, and somehow their friends, everyone sees this, so now they're called out and caught. They're caught doing this. I mean, they said that they were gonna, in the Lover's Nook, I didn't say this, but in the Lover's Nook, they said they were gonna keep this all secret, but I guess it's a few hours later and it's not a secret anymore and they're fine with it. These characters have no spine, in my opinion. We don't really need a spine. I think he says something about being boneless. We'll get to the boneless stuff. We'll get to it. Will we? Who knows? They get out of the maze, and I think they get ready for another dinner or something. God, I don't even fucking know. Yeah, no, a dinner and like a little party get-together evening or something. Fuck, I don't know. It's editing row because I realized that I forgot to put in a whole scene and also have something to say, and also I need to film an intro. It doesn't matter. So I forgot a whole scene and I bring it up and start yapping about it. So I'll just tell you now. Before Scott and Dina go to their little dinner and hangout evening or something, Dina decides that this is the time to tell Scott that she has magic. What she does is they step out of the cottage to walk towards the main dinner area or something. She's like, hey, hold up. And she runs inside, she gets a teacup, and she like lets moonlight flow into the teacup or something, like silver, and then she does something, she's shiny, and then she tosses the moonlight water or whatever at the trees and the sparkles disappear or something. It's a whole thing. She does that, and then she puts the teacup on the ground by the cottage or like on the porch or something, and then she links arms with him and just they walk off, and that's it. Bro, I wish that they would just like I can't imagine being Scott in that moment and not going, huh, what was that? Or like, if he isn't going that, if he's not saying like, oh, what the fuck was that? I imagine that he's scared and that he's just going with it. Like, I just think that I was just imagining things, honestly. But apparently, Scott isn't like that. Scott and I, what I've learned, the only thing that Scott and I have in common is that we are large. I cannot relate to this man one bit. But yeah, I left that scene out. There you fucking go. Throughout the whole story, there's one thing that's been kind of foreshadowed, and it's a ritual. I forgot the name of the ritual. I don't know if I could pronounce it if I remembered, but Dina is basically gonna dance naked by moonlight with her besties and her mom. I think this is kind of cool. Do it, girl. They meet up at a bonfire, and this was a part that genuinely got me to tear up, and I thought it was really cool. They have candles that they light, and as long as the candles burn for about 3 minutes, they can interact with the ghost of a loved one. I will cry again if I say this, but they each summon the ghost of a loved one. They play music and they dance with the ghosts around the fire. And yes, they're also naked, but I thought that was really cute. I thought that was really touching. And I will cry. I will cry. Don't fucking tempt me. I already have tears in my eyes. I cry so easily. I cry when an ambulance drives by. Sorry, my mom called me for something. And I'm sorry if the setup is different now, but I had to use my phone. Anyway, after the moonlight ritual, Dina gets up and she starts walking to the cottage. When halfway through, she realizes, uh-oh, I'm not wearing any clothes. Oopsie, I forgot my clothes at the ritual site. Oops. And then it cuts away from her POV. We just cut to Scott. What I hadn't told you is a little bit before the moonlight ritual, he sees Dina leave, and then he sees Dina's friends leave, and then Eric approaches him and has some, like, unsubtle dialogue. It feels less like a person talking and more like the plot compelled him to speak, if you know what I mean. He's like, "Oh, I'm not supposed to tell you about the field." And Scott's like, "What field?" And Eric is like, "Oh, oopsie, I promised not to talk about the South Field." And I was like, oh god, Scott's gonna go to the naked dance ritual, but he didn't go there. He just went back to the cottage and went to try to sleep. He couldn't sleep, though, because that's where we cut to. Scott can't sleep. It's the middle of the night, and he can't sleep, and he needs to go outside for air. He can't sleep knowing that Dina is out there in the woods somewhere, so he goes out to walk. He trips over a branch. He thinks about the magic that Dina had showed him. He says something like, not him, not his monologue. The narration says something like that he had considered that Dina was magic. It was never brought up that he did that. But he's just like, I guess she's a witch. There's other terms I could use, but I think witch suits better. And it's like, yeah, okay. He just accepts it blindly, which is fine, I guess. I don't get it. Yeah, anyway, Scott's walking around the woods when he feels a hand on his back, and he knows it's Dina. And Dina just stands behind him, and he turns around and he sees her face, and he thinks to himself, if I look down, it's over, because her body is so sexy. And then he does look down, and he's shocked to find her naked. I had a little freak out about this, because when you look through a camera right now, you don't see a lot of my lower body because it's out of frame. But if you stand really close to me, you could still see some stuff from the corner of your eyes, from like the bottom of your vision. You're not focusing on it, but you can still see it. It's still reflecting into your eyeballs. But right now it's not reflecting into the camera, so you can't see it. That's because like the camera has a very narrower view than you have. So if you stand really close to someone, if you stand like really close, we're like really close right now. If we did this IRL, you'd probably be able to tell that I'm wearing a shirt and maybe pants. You may be able to tell that it's a crop top. Maybe you've spotted the stain on my shirt that I hadn't spotted until after I started recording. You would be able to probably see those things if we were standing here face to face. I do not believe for a second that he didn't notice that Dina was naked. I kind of believe it because it was dark, but it wasn't dark enough. Because like when he noticed that she was naked, he could all of a sudden point out a bunch of details. So I don't genuinely believe that it was dark enough for him to not see it. That feels inconsistent to me. I thought that was weird. But it doesn't really matter because she's standing in front of him naked and they kiss, and I think he's like puts his fingers in places. And then she stops kissing him and runs off, so that they can fuck in the cottage. We're a little bit too close for this. I'm gonna step away again. So, yeah, they get to the cottage, and he, like, kicks the door shut behind them. And this is where a really weird dynamic kicks in. I guess it's not a weird dynamic. I guess it's a common dynamic. But all of a sudden, he gets very... I wouldn't say dominant, but very, I'm man, do what I say, good girl. He gets very that. Maybe that is dominant. I don't know. It's something that they've never talked about before, and that I haven't seen from them before, but all of a sudden he gets like that. And Dina is like, yeah, I didn't know that I wanted to do these things, but I guess I want them. Good for you, girl, but this is really confusing to me. So they have a bunch of sex. Specifically, he eats her out. A lot of words are used that I don't like. Like, for example, it's being talked about her wet folds. And her pussy is described as pussy, yes, but also as, like, her heat. And, like, it's, like, wet and slick and soft. I have a lot of, concerns. Actually... No, I have some concerns about something specific, so I'll lay out the details and then so you have all the context, so you know what I mean. It's talked about her wetness, her heat. Her inner thighs are wet. Even before they start anything, her inner thighs are wet. So she is really getting into it right now. She is obviously aroused. There is the slippery stuff that goes out. to protect your body from damage during penetration. That stuff, apparently it leaks enough to coat her inner thighs. This is outside of her vulva. This is her inner thighs we're talking about. That's very leaky, but I guess that's allowed. I guess we have different bodies. That's fine. Her inner thighs are coated. When he eats her out, apparently his entire beard is covered. He is slick with her stuff. He's shiny. So, like, it's everywhere. That's what I'm trying to get at. After she comes, she goes on her little knees, I think, and sucks his dick. And then he comes in her mouth, enough that it spills from the corner of her lips. And then he puts his little thumb in his mouth. And he wipes it away from the corner of her mouth, which, to name the fluids that she's covered in right now, 2 different types of cum and spit and the arousal fluid from a vagina. Also, I thought this was really funny, but when he was eating her out, he grazes one finger over her anus and he's vaguely asking may I or something, and she's like, oh my god, how did he know? It literally said, how did he know? I don't think he knows that you're into anal. I think he just wants to put his finger there and is asking you if that's okay. But according to her, he knew. No, actually, it's been 3 weeks or something since I filmed this, and I'm still obsessed with this. How? Why? Why would he know? Why would he know? Why would she assume that he did it? Because he knew she'd like it. Why? What? I'm obsessed with it. There's a few things that live rent-free in my head, and this is one of them. Why would he know? Why would he know? I don't get it. What do you mean? This is a guy grabbing your ass and you being like, oh my god, how did he know that I like groping? It's oh my god, what do you mean? I don't think he did that because you like it. Oh my god. It's constantly on my mind. What do you mean? Anyway, past me is now gonna go on a tangent on mind speaking. So enjoy. This feeds into the idea that I have. I think that off page they are mind speaking to each other and I'm not being let in on it. And this is hinting at the fact that they communicate with each other without me knowing, because apparently he knew somehow. Otherwise, why would she think that he just figured it out from nothing? That's weird. So yeah, he sticks one finger up her ass. In addition to all the genital fluids and spit, there is now also ass particles in the mix. What I'm trying to say is that Dina is kind of stinky right now, and so is Scott. They would both probably smell like bodies and not like a good part of bodies. Scott has been continuously referring to her as smelling like cinnamon and vanilla. This has been an ongoing thing. It was like that with the sex as well, I think, or right before it. So yeah, he eats her out, she sucks his dick, and they don't want to have P&V sex. Not yet, because Scott wants to take his time with Dina. The woman that he's now known for 3 days and is already talking about loving. He wants to take his time with her. After Scott comes, I think maybe he eats out Dina again or something. She comes again, and then she gets eepy weepy, little sweepy against his chest, and he carries her from her bed, I think, to his bed so that they can sleep. She sleeps really fast. So there is no time for her to say, hold up, Scott, let's brush our teeth and go shower and maybe pee. You need to pee after sex, otherwise you could get a UTI. At least that's how it works from my understanding. Be safe. There's no time for her to do anything, which is fine. I guess it's fine. And the next morning she wakes up again and she realizes that Scott isn't next to her, and she has 2 sentences of being insecure about it. And then she thinks to herself, oh my god, the wedding. I'm the worst best friend ever, the worst bridesmaid. And Scott comes in and reminds her that I think it's 7:15 or something. It's really early. And then they kiss. And internally, I'm cringing. Because not only do you have morning breath, you also didn't brush your teeth before. So it's not just the stillness of having your mouth open and all the bacteria that continue to grow. The layer on your tongue. That's stinky. And that builds up. not only is it that, but it's also a mix of cum and dried fluids. There's 2 different types of cum and then the dried fluids. And like the thing that smells bad about your mouth is also like, because your spit dries, the stuff in your mouth is also your spit. Like if you wipe it like this, the corner of your mouth is going to smell like that, and if it dries, it's only going to smell worse. So Dina is really stinky right now. And then they kiss, and he's just like, you smell like chocolate. Where did we get chocolate from? She realistically right now. Also, they danced in the woods. Her friends had dirt on them. So she should be covered in dirt, cum, other cum, vaginal fluids that aren't cum, spit, ass particles, sweat because she danced. Like she does not smell like chocolate right now, Scott. Be normal. I'm You know what Dina says? You know what? Come close. Shh. You know what Dina says? I'm trying to look into the right camera, but my phone has 3 and I'm not sure which one it is. You know what Dina says? It's the cocoa butter. Dina, what do you mean? At this point, I'm kind of losing it. Because, like, continuity, I guess the word is continuity. I don't want to nitpick, but I don't want to nitpick, but when I'm reading this book and there's a bunch of nits crawling over the pages, what else am I supposed to do? So, Dina, who does not smell like dirt and cum and spit and piss and shit. Dina, who smells like chocolate. They kiss and they get ready for the wedding. I don't remember any chapter where she actually baked the stuff for the wedding that she was supposed to bake. But sure, I guess it happens right now, maybe? Or maybe last morning, but I think it's right now. But it's not mentioned. She puts a little spell on the door that she can't leave until she is not horny anymore, or that Scott can't leave until she's not horny, something like that. It's really weird. Oh, I haven't told you about Martin yet. Martin is a guy. He works at the location. He's like a butler. He's basically like, imagine like a pale British man. I don't know if he's pale, but like just imagine like a British guy who's like works in servitude, I guess. Well, okay, he gets paid. He's just scouring around the premises and telling people to leave rooms because it's late and they have to prepare that room for the next day. He's just a little man who's standing around doing little chores for people and managing the property, I guess. After Dina and Scott fuck, he is sent to their little cottage to tell them from Emmy and Eric that they need to stop boinking. That's the word used, boinking. Or bonking, I guess. Bonking? I would say boinking. Emmy would say bonking. He's being put in this position where he is being told to go confront people about the sex that they're having, and then they respond back about the sex that they're having, and he just has to put up with it. And I feel for Martin, because what the fuck, dude? That's really fucking weird. Also, I forgot to say this, but apparently there was a story that Emmy and Eric told to Dina and Scott, or to Dina, I guess, about how Scott has a nickname in their rowing club that is related to his penis, because his penis is so big. His dick is apparently very huge. It's like big, I imagine, in all directions, covered in veins, constantly rock hard. I'm tired. It sounds exhausting. Yeah, so anyway, they go to the wedding. Dina helps Emmy with the wedding. That's awesome. And they have the little ceremony, and the whole time Dina is thinking about herself, about how her hex affects her, and she's like, oh, don't be so selfish. And on one hand, yeah, it's really selfish. On the other hand, I also get it. Like, if you are hexed and you really want to get married someday, this will be a really painful day for you. So I'm not really gonna shit on that. After the ceremony, Scott pulls her aside immediately, and this is where they become sex pests. Dina and Scott walk into a little room. Dina remarks on how she doesn't really recognize what kind of room it is, because it doesn't really matter to her. So she's not paying attention to it. And they start kissing and like putting fingers and stuff, and they hear voices. And so Scott pulls Dina into a closet. I thought they were standing, but apparently Dina is like sitting on something with like her legs apart so he can like, you know, apparently that's the case. I'm not sure if she still has like, because if she wraps her legs around him, wouldn't her coochie be covered by his body? I'm not sure about the dynamic. I'm not sure about the anatomy here. So they're in the closet and they remark on how they need to be quiet because they're in a bad position right now. Dina has her tits out because before anything happens, Scott needs to suck on her titties. I'm cringing, but that is the thing that they keep doing before anything. He needs to suck on them. Her pointy hard nibbles that are hard and pointy. They're in the closet in a very compromising position. And so they hear the people that are coming in. They hear them talking. Martin is one of the people, and they whisper to each other, "Oh, we need to be quiet. This is really bad. We need to be quiet." Scott keeps growling and hissing like a little animal. He's like, "We need to be quiet." And Dina's like, "We need to be quiet." And then she thinks about how close she is to his penis, that she could like suck on it a little bit. And he's like, he had the same idea, I think, because he starts like eating her pussy again. Not sure about how that would work since you're both presumably standing in a closet. He's eating her pussy, just, you know, nom nom nom. And they're moaning, and they can hear the people next to them talking, and they're moaning in this closet. And I need you to think about that, because if you can hear the people right next to you, then can't the people right next to you hear you as well? Like, I know that you're trying to be quiet, but apparently you're like squeaking because you can't hold it in anymore, and you're like moaning and growling and hissing and whispering. Doesn't this just mean that you went into a place and started having sex with each other, even though there were other people around? And like, yeah, they weren't around when you started having sex maybe, but then you knew that they were around and you purposefully hid from them so they wouldn't know that you were there, and then started having sex again? Wouldn't this just mean that you are exposing unconsenting strangers to you having sex? This makes me really uncomfortable because what do you mean? Why are you doing that? It pisses me off because I believe in sexual freedom. I believe that we should be allowed to have a bunch of sex with anyone from whoever gender we want. But the most important thing to me is consent. If there's someone in the room with you while you're having sex, you are incorporating that person in your sexcapades. And if that person is not consenting, I mean, I don't know, does that count as assault? It's gross. That's really fucking disgusting. So at this point, they're sex pests to me. They're doing that. They're exposing, and again, Martin, I know you're not a real person. And I know you're just a cardboard cutout character, but I'm sorry that happened to you, buddy. Hearing other people have sex is really uncomfortable. And I'm sure for some people it's a really, really big turn on, but this isn't from Martin's perspective. So I guess the turn on here is supposed to be that you're just shoving it into someone else's face. Which, yeah, that's a kink for some people. But I wasn't warned that this was in here, so I'm just uncomfortable. You know what I mean? If I go into something and I'm expecting some like wild sex things with dubious consent, in this case, because Martin isn't consenting, not that we know. If I'm expecting that, I can prepare for that, but I'm not expecting it, so I'm just watching a bunch of sex pests be sex pests out of nowhere. So anyway, when she comes, she glows. She didn't know she would do that, but she did, and Scott loves it. So, fun, whatever. They go back to the party, but I just assume that they're now sticky. Is that a wrong assumption? Maybe, I don't know. They dance a bunch. What's her name? Dina's parents approach Scott to chat about Dina and him, and they're like, "Ooh, are you her boyfriend, ooh?" And he's like, "Well, I'd like to be one day." I'm gonna take off my glasses because I'm tired. Is this unflattering? This is where we have to insert a man. Apparently, look, I know that this is how men act. Not all men act this way, I'm sure, but a lot of them do, so I get it, but also all the characters already feel like cardboard cutouts, so it feels like you're putting in a cardboard cutout of a man that sucks, so that you can then be like, look how nice it is that Scott doesn't like that. Isn't he a better man? I don't like this, personally. I don't know. I don't want to argue that it's like unrealistic men behavior, because men do behave like that sometimes. But yeah, a guy, Kyle, his name is Kyle. He's like flirting with Dina and trying to ask her like, do you want a drink? Scott approaches them and wraps his arms around Dina. He's like, oh, hey, baby, or something. I don't know. And Kyle's like, oh, I didn't know. Are you tapping that? And Scott is like pissed off at that comment because, like, what the fuck do you mean, you objectifying little piece of shit? And Dina is like, yeah, he is tapping that, but I don't think you'll be tapping anything for a while. And then he walks away or something. Kyle walks away. Sure, it's a little bit cardboard cutouty, but it would be a little bit fun. Except then Scott and Dina talk about it, and apparently Dina hexed him so that for a few days now he won't get it up. He will not have an erection when he tries to. Which, on the one hand, yeah, it's so cool, girly, that you talked back to the bad man and then you really got him, but also, isn't it kind of weird to mess with the penis of a stranger in a way that he didn't consent to? I'm uncomfortable, personally. That makes me feel weird. Like, if you piss off Dina, she'll mess with your penis in a way you don't like. In any other context, would that not just be really inappropriate? But I guess it's fine here because she's the main character. Or maybe it's not fine, but it's not like condemned by the narrative. It's kind of seen as like a cool thing she did that was nice and awesome, which I disagree. You already got the little comment over him. Why do you need to hex his peen? Anyway, they start making out in the middle of the dance floor, and then they go back to the cottage to fuck some more. I'm not sure if this is when they start having penetrative sex, but I think it is. No anus, but yeah. First, Scott needs to eat her out, of course. Then she sucks his dick, and then they talk about how big it is, and if it is it really gonna fit? It's so large. Oh, can you take it all, good girl? And then she's like, she takes it all, of course, 'cause she's a good girl. And then all of a sudden, it's like it fits perfectly. It's said that, like, from one page it goes, oh, it's really big, I don't know if I can take it all, to, like, it fits perfectly. Not sure what that means. This is not the time for me to overshare, but if you're not sure if you can take it all and then shove it all in anyway, and it's so bigly large, in my experience, you will bleed for days. But I guess it... Is that too much? Can I say that? Can I say that on the internet? Oh, can I say that for free? I can't say that for free. Pay me. Pay me money right now. Pay me money. Send it to my address. This is my address. Okay. They have penetrative sex. They fall asleep again. Next morning, they're cutesy together, and Dina is like, oh, but I like this man. In this moment, the narrative talks in both of their perspectives about them being in love and wanting to spend the rest of their life with this person, I think. I think that's at least what Scott said. Dina's like, I need to get away from this man because of the hex, and then she goes into the forest, and the forest guides her to a thing, and she comes to the conclusion that actually she can just be with him and put a bunch of protective charms on him, which is kind of cute because he likes protective charms. But also she doesn't tell him about this. At this point, they go back to their regular lives and just try to get back to their regular lives, but together. They fuck a bunch, like a whole lot, and we are informed. There's like a whole scene where Scott goes to his work and Dina shows up in leggings, and we're told that apparently Scott had told Dina about a specific fantasy. First, they go look at the exhibition, and then they go to Scott's office, and he bends her over the desk and rips her leggings, and then eats her out, and then he has to rip them further open to let his penis in. Or maybe he just ripped it open because he wanted to. I thought it was for practicality, so I thought that was confusing, but also a little bit funny. Sue me, I thought it was funny. Don't sue me. On the way out of Scott's office, a poster almost falls on Scott, and apparently stuff keeps almost falling on him, like a roof tile, and he keeps almost tripping, and Dina's like, oh shit, oh fuck, and she keeps not telling him about the hex, but it keeps being like an almost accident, and she's really emotional about it every time it happens. Scott's just like, don't worry babe, it's gonna be fine, I'll be fine. You'll find that this is like all taking place in November. Of course, the wedding was end of October. The book ends in November, basically. This is all over the span of basically at most 5 weeks, which is kind of wild, but whatever. They go home, they separate for some reason, not sure why. Dina sleeps alone. She does a bunch of more rituals to keep him safe and stuff. Apparently she's been doing like nightly midnight rituals on his behalf or something. And the next morning, Scott, when he goes to work, he gets a book from the archives, but he has to climb a rickety old ladder to get there. And the ladder breaks and he falls on the ground, hits his head really hard. Oopsie. Dina doesn't know. She goes to work, has a bunch of stuff. She does the morning rush. She makes a tea mix, a tea blend for Scott. And then she gets a call that he's in the hospital. So she rushes to the hospital. At this point, I was kind of over it. So I was speed reading, which in my case is still really slow because I read really slow. I was not like skimming, but I was trying to go fast. Dina goes to the hospital and she basically tells Scott, "This is all my fault. I am hexed and this is gonna happen to you because of me, and it's gonna keep happening until you die maybe, and so I just need to leave." And she breaks up with him there on the spot. And Scott thinks to himself, "I would die for you, actually. This has been the happiest weeks of my life. I've never felt this way with my ex before. I was never this happy with her, but I feel really, really happy with you and I'd die for you." But he doesn't say that. Because Dina walks away. She breaks up with him, and she cries in her apartment, and she calls with her friends, who say to her, "Hey, Dina, I haven't told you much about the hex at all. The hex, Dina thinks it's cast by one of her exes. She was dating a woman, and she was scared that the woman would leave, and she had the ingredients for a spell to make someone fall in love. She hadn't used them because the person she wanted to use it on gave her the ick. She was like 17 or 14 or something when she got the ingredients. But this girl knew about her magic, and this girl was really upset with that. When she got a bad grade in school and Dina got a good one, she accused Dina of like magicking her way into a good grade. Like, this woman she wasn't happy that Dina was a witch, which is kind of rude. I think it's kind of sad for Dina. And Dina was panicking, and she put a little spell on her girlfriend, and then her girlfriend rushed to Dina to go make up because they were fighting. And while that girlfriend was rushing to Dina, she got into a car accident. When she woke up, she got really, really mad at Dina in the hospital. She told Dina, like, "Oh, how dare you do this to me?" Which, yeah, how fucking dare you? She could feel herself being possessed and being pulled to text Dina and drive to her, but it wasn't her doing it. It was like a different force. Dina believes that in that moment, her ex cursed her to never find love again, and that's the curse. Her mom could help her with curses. Dina tried everything to get rid of the curse, but she couldn't do it. But she knows that her mom is a powerful witch and can just help her get rid of the curse. But Dina doesn't want to tell her mom about it because Dina doesn't want to come out to her mom as bi. And I want to empathize with that. I think her mom is awesome, what we've seen throughout the book. I haven't told you much because she's mostly doing stuff for plot, but when we see her, she's chaotic and really sweet and nice, and I feel like she can be really unserious in some moments, but when it counts, she is serious, and I think that's a really good quality to have in a person. So I like her mom. What was I talking about? Right, yeah, she doesn't want to come out to her mom. I get it. It can be really scary to come out, even when you're convinced that you're around people who would love you. It can still feel really scary to come out. I struggled to come out as trans to some of my family because I felt like I didn't know. I wasn't sure how to explain myself to them. And I knew that they weren't like transphobic in like any sort of violent way, but it can be really hard to come out. That's what I'm trying to say. I want to empathize with that. But at the same time, I was really annoyed with Dina. So when she talked about how her mom might not accept her if she comes out, I was kind of like, but it's not about that at the moment. Like she is constantly putting other people in danger because of her hex. And if this is the only thing that could stop that danger, then I'm kind of like, do it. Also, her mom is like really sweet. I don't know. I was a little bit annoyed. But I got it, but I was annoyed. I understood it, but I was bothered. But that's why she still has the hex, basically. In the last few pages, because this is really like, there's only like 20 pages left, she calls with her friends. And her friends tell her, "Hey, just come out to your mom so she can fix the hex." And she's like, "No, I can't." And then she goes to sleep and she wakes up, but it's in a dream, and her cat tells her, "Hey, come out to your mom." And then she wakes up for real and her cat can't talk anymore. And she goes to her mom and she tells her the whole story except the part where she's bi. And then her mom is angry because she had a secret. But when her mom isn't angry anymore, they look into the curse, and you know what they find out? They found out that Dina cursed herself. It had nothing to do with X. Which also is kind of why I didn't feel like telling you about it before, because, like, I don't know. She cries because she cursed herself, and then she tells her mom that she's bi, and then her mom gives her a special henna tattoo, because they have special henna tattoos that have magic. She gives her a henna tattoo that makes her see herself the way her mom sees her. And then she looks in the mirror and she realizes that she needs to love herself. And then the curse is broken. If you listen to this right now and you think, huh, what the fuck, bro? What are you talking about? That's really confusing. Yeah, it's really confusing. Like, okay, the thematic things of this, the idea that you need to love yourself, and if you don't, you keep self-sabotaging yourself because you're insecure, and if you're not supporting yourself, then you're gonna be working against the world and yourself. Those ideas are so valid. I understand shooting yourself in the foot because you don't believe that people can love you. So when someone does, it feels wrong and it doesn't feel real, and it feels like maybe they're just saying that to get to you. Those things are all real. But it's never been brought up before. It's never said that, like, Dina is like, oh, I don't know if Scott really likes me. Like, yes, in the first few pages, maybe. Well, I don't think it was. Oh, yeah. There was one part where he was like, there was the thing when he wiped the marshmallow from her mouth. She talked to herself and she was like, well, I have a stain on my shirt. How could he possibly like me? But, like, besides that, she wasn't really insecure about this. So I'm kind of like, so yeah, anyway, she cursed herself because she didn't love herself, and now she's gonna work on loving herself, which means that the curse is broken. It was that easy, apparently. Well, not that easy, but that simple. And also that unexpected. So it cuts back to Scott. He is not really sleeping well. He's very heartbroken, and he is doing the opening night of his exhibition. He's having his little speech, and in the crowd he sees Dina, and everything fades for him. He doesn't remember finishing his speech. He all glazes over it. It goes on autopilot, and he goes to find Dina in the crowd, but he can't find her. He finds Imi, who points him in the direction of Dina, and then they kiss. He grabs her by the ass, and they kiss more, and that's it. That's it. She says the curse is broken, and then they kiss, and he grabs her by the ass, and that's it. I'm so disappointed. I don't know what I expected. Well, I do know what I expected. I expected this to be cozy because that's what I read on the cover. I saw that there were some moments of pure wish fulfillment from the author. The way that some things were described to be cozy, but in an incredibly quirky way. The way she had purple highlights in her hair and got a henna tattoo from her mom that could dye her hair different colors or something. The way that she has lights in her apartment, but they're pink and she can turn them off and on with a click of her finger. And the way that her cat is a black cat with a white belly and a moon on his forehead. Or her forehead, I don't remember. The way that the cat is named Heebie-Jeebie. Heebie for short. When she's fully saying that she loves Scott, I thought his name was Josh for a moment, I don't remember. When she fully thinks she loves Scott, and she says that, and she's open about it, and she knows about the curse, and if things keep going wrong, and they're just having sex, I am expecting something to go wrong. At every moment, I'm sitting here on the edge of my seat. This is the moment. They're mid-fucking, and something is gonna fall. He stood on the stage giving his speech, and there was a poster behind him, and I was like, a poster dropped on him before and that was a big deal, and now there's a big poster behind him. Like, at any moment anything could go wrong. I'm sitting here on the edge of my seat being nervous for them. I'm not cozy right now. I'm either uncomfortable with their sexual weird stuff, I'm laughing at their sexual weird stuff, or I'm on edge. This hasn't been cozy at all. I think the characters are very cardboard cutouts. When they're not being cardboard cutouts, they're being moved by the plot. They're being compelled to speak by the plot. And when both of those things aren't happening, I keep wanting to push up my glasses. When both of those things aren't happening, sometimes they're fun. And there are little moments that I really like, but they're overshadowed by all the shit that I don't like. I just wish that these characters could communicate with each other. I was going into this for something cozy, for people connecting, but what I got was just two horny strangers who on day 4 or day 5 were already talking about how they were in love with each other and falling in love and loving each other and forever. And apparently within these at most 5 weeks, they've talked about getting children, even though they don't want children, so that's good to know. Scott was contemplating adopting a kitten with her. Like, what do you mean? That's really soon. These people are rushing into it, and sometimes the narrative will say something like, oh, this is really fast. And I'm like, yeah, you think? It feels like the book is almost self-aware about it, and does it anyway. self-awareness only goes so far, you know? And it doesn't even seem that self-aware. Outro time. Bye. This is a really great angle for me, so I'm gonna keep it. Let me know how you feel, honestly, because I need someone to. I uploaded this because I needed to talk about it. I can't make it through things that suck without yapping about it. I need it out of my system. So yeah, if you have any thoughts, let me know. Okay, bye.